All right, let's dive into this world.
Yeah.
Joe Abercrombie's first law.
Absolutely.
You've given us a lot, a mix here, trilogy, standalones, even dipping into some sharp ends.
Yeah.
So we know you're not coming in blind on this one.
Right.
But what we really want to do with this deep dive is figure out what makes this world tick.
Yeah.
What makes it so brutal and so funny at the same time.
I think that's part of the appeal, right? Is this kind of dark humor.
Yeah, and you're laughing, but then you're like, should I be laughing?
Exactly.
And Abercrombie, he just throws you right in.
Yeah.
There's not a ton of exposition.
No, you're just sort of there.
You're figuring it out alongside the characters.
Right alongside Logan as he's walking into Adua for the first time.
Yeah, that's a great example. So, okay, we've got this world, circle of the world, kind of a medieval Europe vibe.
Yeah, definitely.
Magic's real.
Yeah.
But it's subtle.
It's not flashy.
No, it's dangerous.
Yeah, and it's kind of behind the scenes a lot of the time.
Yeah, figures like Bayaz lurking in the shadows.
Right, pulling the strings.
So, okay, if you had to explain the Union to someone who's maybe only read like one of the books, how would you sum up this empire?
It's an empire that looks strong on the surface.
Right.
But you quickly realize it's incredibly unstable.
Oh, yeah.
Lots of internal conflict.
And corruption up to its eyeballs.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look at the Closed Council.
Right.
They're the ones really running the show.
Pulling the king's strings.
Exactly. And not always for the good of the realm, let's be honest.
Okay, hold on. The Closed Council versus the Open Council.
Oh, that's a fascinating dynamic.
Right. Like Brock.
Trying to do things the right way.
Yeah, appealing to reason and all that.
And then you've got Sultan Burr.
Oh, man, they're playing a whole different game.
Absolutely. Cynical, ruthless.
But maybe also realistic.
That's the question, isn't it?
Like, does power always end up in those hands?
Abercrombie seems to think so.
So we're seeing that play out in the excerpts you picked.
Definitely. And it makes you think, about your own experiences.
Yeah. Have you ever seen anything like that in your own life?
Oh, I think we all have. Whether it's in a workplace, a community.
Even just like friend groups.
Exactly.
Sometimes the people in charge, they're not the most moral.
Nope. They're just the best at playing the game.
So we've got Sult using religion as a tool.
Right. Very Machiavellian.
Burr treating war like some big chessboard.
Oh, with people's lives as the pieces.
It's chilling, but also kind of makes sense.
Sadly. Yeah. It's a reflection of how power often works.
And then Adua itself, right?
This huge, sprawling city.
Abercrombie's descriptions are amazing.
They really draw you in.
You can almost smell the streets.
Yeah, and the grime and the desperation.
But also the excitement, the opportunity.
It's all there in Adua. It's a microcosm of the whole world he's created.
Okay, so we've got this world that's both familiar and completely alien.
A twisted mirror to our own.
Yeah, and underneath it all, this magic simmering.
Always threatening to boil over.
But, what really makes it all click are the characters.
Oh, absolutely. Abercrombie's characters, they're just unforgettable.
They're the heart of it all.
They're the reason you keep turning the pages.
They're so flawed, so complex.
You won't find many clear-cut heroes or villains here.
Just people making impossible choices.
In a world that's constantly trying to break them.
And you've got some specific characters you want to dive into.
I do. I think their journeys really get to the heart of what Abercrombie's trying to say.
Okay, so let's start with the one who's maybe the most well-known.
The Bloody Nine himself.
Logan Ninefingers. This guy, he's a legend.
A legend with a lot of baggage.
That's putting it lightly. But there's this tension in him between this savage warrior and the guy who just wants to be left alone.
He's haunted by his past, by the violence he's both inflicted and endured.
And that internal struggle, that's what makes him so fascinating.
Right. It's like he's constantly at war with himself.
And you mentioned this idea of the other side.
Oh, yeah. That's a crucial part of Logan's character.
Is that Abercrombie's way of saying that we all have that darkness inside us?
I think so. It's not about conquering it, necessarily.
More like learning to live with it.
Yeah, making choices despite it.
It's like he's trying to outrun his own legend, but it's a part of him.
It's always there, lurking beneath the surface.
And it makes you wonder, can he ever truly escape it?
Or are we all, to some extent, prisoners of our past?
Good question. And that kind of leads us to another character who seems trapped.
Oh, yeah.
Sandan Glokta.
Glokta. Now, there's a complicated one.
So cynical, so ruthless.
And yet you can't help but feel for him.
I know, right? Because he's endured so much.
The torture, the pain, it's shaped him.
It's made him bitter, but also insightful.
Yeah, he sees the world in a way that most people can't.
Because he's been through the ringer.
Exactly. He understands the dark side of power.
Because because he's been on the receiving end of it.
Which makes his role as an inquisitor all the more disturbing.
Yeah, because he knows exactly what he's doing to people.
And he does it anyway.
It's like he's taken all that pain and turned it outwards.
And it makes you question, does that justify his actions?
Good question. Does surviving trauma give you the right to inflict it on others?
Abercrombie doesn't give us easy answers.
No, he just makes us think.
And squirm a little bit in our seat.
Exactly. So Glokta, he's a study in contradictions.
A broken man who wields immense power.
And his story makes you think about systems.
Yeah, how they can twist even the most well-intentioned people.
Have you ever been in a situation where you felt pressure to compromise your values?
I think we all have at some point.
To get ahead, to fit in.
Or even just to survive.
And that's what Glokta's story is all about, right?
Yeah, it's about the choices we make when the lines get blurred.
Between right and wrong, between good and evil.
And how those choices can have consequences that ripple outwards.
Affecting not just ourselves, but the people around us.
And maybe even the world itself.
That's a heavy thought. But it's what makes this deep dive so engaging.
Right. We're not just talking about fantasy here.
We're talking about the human condition.
About the things that connect us all, regardless of whether we live in the circle of the world or in our own world.
And I think that's what makes Abercrombie's work so powerful.
It's both entertaining and thought-provoking.
It makes you laugh, it makes you cringe.
And it definitely makes you think.
And that's just with Logan and Glokta.
We've got a whole cast of characters waiting in the wings.
Each one more messed up than the last.
Oh, I wouldn't say that.
Well, maybe not more messed up, but definitely messed up in their own unique way.
Absolutely. And each one has a story to tell.
A story that reflects some aspect of ourselves.
Our fears, our desires, our capacity for both good and evil.
So let's get to them.
Let's dive deeper into the heart of Abercrombie's world.
And see what other uncomfortable truths he's got waiting for us.
I can't wait.
Me neither. All right, so next up, we've got to talk about Pharaoh Mulgin. She's a force of nature.
That's one way to put it.
And we need to unpack her story because it gets at something really important about trauma.
And survival.
And revenge.
Yeah.
So buckle up because things are about to get intense.
Oh, yeah. This is Abercrombie after all. You know it's going to get dark.
Let's do it. So Glokta, he's like this walking embodiment of how power can twist you up.
Yeah, for sure.
But then you've got these other characters who wear their scars differently, I guess you could say.
Right.
Like Pharaoh Mulgin. She's, whoa.
Yeah, she is intense.
That rage just leaps off the page.
It's almost scary.
But you can't look away.
It's so raw, so visceral.
You mentioned a passage where she's watching those slaves.
Oh, yeah, that's a powerful scene.
That's not just anger, it's like grief.
It's like she's carrying the weight of all the injustice in the world.
Makes you think about how we define a hero.
Right. Is it just about strength?
Pharaoh's definitely strong.
Resourceful.
Deadly. But is that enough?
I mean, her quest for revenge, it's so single-minded.
And it raises questions about the cost of that kind of vengeance. Yeah, like, is it truly heroic?
Or is it just another form of destruction?
And that's the thing with Abercrombie, right?
Mm-hmm.
He makes you question these easy labels.
Good and evil, hero and villain.
They all get kind of blurry.
It's all shades of gray.
Speaking of gray areas, let's talk about Bayaz.
Oh, the first of the Magi?
Yeah, he's got this aura of wisdom, of power.
But there's also a coldness to him.
Remember when he just casually kills that woman?
Oh, yeah, in front of Giselle.
That was ice cold.
It's like he doesn't even blink.
It's like he's playing a different game.
One with much higher stakes.
So is he really a good guy?
I mean, he claims to be working for the greater good.
But his methods?
They're questionable at best.
I mean, is he manipulating everyone?
That's the big question, isn't it?
It makes you wonder if anyone in this world can really be trusted.
Abercrombie definitely likes to keep us guessing.
Yeah, and that's part of the fun, I think.
It keeps you on the edge of your seat.
So we've got these huge figures like Logan, Glokta, Bayaz.
Shaping the fate of nations.
But then you've got these other characters who are just as fascinating.
Yeah, but in different ways.
Like Savine Dan Glokta. Talk about a chip off the old block.
Oh, she's sharp.
She's got her father's wit.
And his ambition.
But she's navigating this world in her own way.
She's not afraid to play the game.
And she's good at it.
Maybe even better than Glokta himself.
I love that scene where she's manipulating Lady Celeste.
Oh, yeah, it's so subtle.
You can practically see the wheels turning in her head.
She's a master strategist.
And it's interesting because she's operating in this world that's dominated by men.
Right, but she's not letting that stop her.
She's using the rules to her advantage.
And she's not afraid to break a few along the way.
And then there's Reich up in the north.
Oh, Reich. He's got a tough job.
Thrown into leadership.
Surrounded by people who want to use her.
And then there are the visions.
Yeah, those are a whole other layer of complexity.
More burden than blessing, I'd say.
It's like having access to this incredible knowledge.
But not knowing what to do with it.
Or even if you can trust it.
It makes you think about those moments in life when you have to make a decision without knowing all the facts,
When you have to trust your gut.
even when it's terrifying.
Yeah.
So we've got all these incredible characters. They are really what make this series so great.
Right. It's not just the plot or the world building.
It's the people who inhabit this world.
Yeah.
Their struggles, their triumphs, even their failures.
Yeah. And I think that leads nicely into the next part of our deep dive, the themes.
Yeah. The big ideas that tie everything together.
Yeah.
Let's get into it. Giselle, he really shows how messy change can be.
Yeah, it's not a straight line.
Lots of stumbling along the way.
2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Exactly. But Abercrombie, he doesn't give us easy answers, does he?
No, he doesn't.
Like, can people really change that much?
I think that's what he's asking us to consider.
And not just individuals, right?
Right.
But whole systems.
Can something built on violence and corruption ever really be fixed?
Or are we just doomed to keep repeating the same mistakes?
That's a big question.
One that we see playing out in our own world, too.
Oh, yeah. Look at history.
Look at the news.
It's like we're constantly struggling with these same issues.
Power, corruption, the cycle of violence.
And the hope for something better.
But is that hope realistic?
Abercrombie seems to think so.
Even in a world as grim as this one.
Even then.
I mean, the Union, it's always on the verge of collapse.
Right. It's like holding back a flood.
But what happens when the dam breaks?
That's what makes the series so compelling.
You're never quite sure what's going to happen next.
Or who's going to come out on top.
Because there are no real winners in this world, are there?
Not really. Everyone pays a price.
But Abercrombie's not just trying to bum us out, is he?
No, I don't think so.
There's something else going on here.
There's a sense of resilience.
Of hope, even in the darkest of places.
It's about recognizing the flaws,
In ourselves, in the systems.
but still believing that things can get better,
It's about fighting for what's right.
even when it seems impossible.
Like Logan, trying to outrun his past.
Glokta, grappling with his demons.
Savine, playing the game on her own terms.
Rek, leading with courage.
And Giselle, well, he's trying.
He's definitely trying.
They're all just trying to find their way.
In a world that doesn't make it easy.
And that's what connects with us, I think.
That sense of shared struggle.
It's like, yeah, the world's a mess.
But we're all in this together.
And maybe, just maybe, we can make it a little less messy.
Maybe. But it's going to take work.
And a lot of uncomfortable truth.
Which is what Abercrombie's so good at giving us.
Making us confront the things we'd rather ignore.
And forcing us to ask ourselves, what are we willing to do to make things better?
Yeah, what are we willing to fight for?
And what price are we willing to pay?
So as we wrap this up, I'm left with this feeling of not exactly optimism, but maybe a kind of fierce hope.
I like that. Fierce hope.
Because Abercrombie's world, it's brutal,
It's unforgiving.
but it's also strangely beautiful.
In its own way.
And it reminds us that even in the darkest of times,
The human spirit can endure.
so keep exploring, keep questioning,
Keep diving deep.
and thanks for joining us on this journey.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time.